The Villain's Demand reviews Mortal Kombat X from DC Comics.
Hey guys, this is The Villain's Demand. I'm Evan the Great. This is Justin Von Doom, and this is Hero Man. Today we're going to bring you another comic book review over Mortal Kombat X, issues 1 through 4.
The book starts off with Kenshi. He's running through like some open plains, some grass plains. He's got a little boy on his back, and he gets shot through the leg. He falls down. It's the Red Dragons after him. The boy, he puts the boy behind him. They're threatening him, telling him he couldn't run, and he gets in a little fight. And he's not really all that worried about winning because he's been running for days. He's exhausted. Then it comes to find out he led them into a trap. He led them into Scorpion's territory. That's his. They're trespassing. Scorpion shows up and lays the beat down on them. Throughout the book, you find out that him and Kenshi, Scorpion and Kenshi, kind of have a past. Kenshi helped him out, so they go back to Scorpion's temple where he's basically built his own little group, and he's training people there, and everybody there has lost everything like he did. Fresh start kind of deal with them all, and he's training them all. He goes there. Kenshi ends up leaving his son that he didn't know he had, but apparently he does, Takada there with Scorpion, and Kenshi leaves. And then Scorpion is training Takada, and Takada and Fox kind of become best friends, and they're training partners. And you kind of get a flashback of them growing up together. And then it turns into Fox ends up getting possessed by this demon, and when it takes over, he goes mad. He cuts his own face off, so he kind of looks like the Red Skull. He cuts his own face off, and he starts slaughtering and murdering in the middle of the night all of Scorpion's clan until he gets there, and then Scorpion and he captures Takada. He runs into Scorpion, and him and Scorpion have their little thing. Scorpion's up defeating him. Takada and Scorpion, they leave, going to the heading towards the Sky Temple, and that's kind of where that little part cuts off. And then it goes into Cassie and Jackie, which Cassie is Luke's daughter, and then
Luke's daughter.
Yeah, Johnny
And Sonya's daughter.
Yeah, Johnny and Sonya's daughter. I don't know where I got Luke from at all.
Cage, maybe?
Maybe. That's their daughter, and then Jackie is Jax's daughter. And they're together. They're kind of having their little conversations about how she ran away from Sonya because Sonya's so strict, so this, so that. But with Johnny, it's more freedom, more open. She has more room to do stuff. But Jackie, she's a boxer like her dad. Cassie, knows all martial arts. So they're sparring. They end up breaking some trophies. They're worried about it, and they're like, well, let's get out in town. So they go out into town. They end up going to a nightclub, and then it shows what Sonya's doing. Sonya is, of course, being herself, military based. She has a meeting with Kotal Kahn, and she goes in there, and he's got his 2 generals with him, and they're having a conversation, and he's at war with Mileena in the Outworld, and he needs their help to take her on because she's got all this planned, and he's trying to talk to her. She don't want nothing to do with it because of who he is. So she turns his back on him, and she gets ready to just leave. She's done having this conversation. One of his generals attacks her, and she spins around. She's got these tentacles, and she lays the beat down on this girl because she knew she was going to do it. Then it goes back to Cassie and Jackie in this nightclub, and it's actually like a fight club. They got an octagon ring, and they get in there. She's like, we can take these girls. Cassie runs off to sign up. That's when Jackie finds out that it's a death match. Before she can get over there to stop her, she's already signed up, and it's too late. So now she's in a death match, and it's a celebrity death match. They introduce her as being Johnny's daughter, celebrity, this horrible actor and all this, and then they introduce Sub-Zero's daughter, which I believe Sub-Zero's daughter, Frost, and how she's undefeated. She slaughtered 27 people and all this other stuff. So they get ready to have their celebrity death match that Cassie really didn't want anything to do with. She just wanted to fight. And that's where this story arc cuts off at.
We're big fans of Mortal Kombat. We grew up playing the original back in our Sega Genesis days. 16-bit, 32-bit. Nice little touch on this book. I don't know if you noticed while Cassie and Jackie are sparring, kind of a nod to that, there's a Super Nintendo sitting in the floor by the TV.
I meant to bring that up, that there was a Super Nintendo. Yeah.
So it's almost a nod to, you know, how long Mortal Kombat has been around. You know, because it changed video games. You know, the level of violence in a video game had not really been seen, you know, until this game came out. So much that you could change the blood on the game. You could, you know, make it with no blood. Which our parents, you know, that was never, we could see blood. And I'd be, what's wrong with us? But it's a really good book for building up to what this is setting up. This takes place around Mortal Kombat X game, which takes place, I think, 25 years past the last one. I can't really tell you because I have not played this one yet. But it's got other good nods of the game, like when Takeda and Fox are sparring and Scorpion's like, fight! You know,
yeah, I enjoyed that too.
Yes, there's a lot of good nods to the game, and I'm curious to see where all this story is going to lead up.
The story for me is also just really cool. The only thing that's kind of weird about it is it does kind of jump around a bit, and Von Doom's read a little bit further than we have, and he says it jumps around like that all the way, almost through. But still, if you read it, you'll know where you're at, you'll know what's going on, especially when you read multiple issues of it. And what I like about it is all the character development, because most of the time when you take a fighting game, all it is a fighting game, but there's story behind it. But this actually puts it more in a comic book form, and it's awesome to see all the relationships that Scorpion has. And then you get, my favorite parts about the book is actually when you meet Cassie and Jackie. I really like those two characters, and they're going to go to the they go wind up getting in that death match. It's really cool how they transpire from where they are and and then they wind up getting themselves into that death match. And then you got in the background, you got other things going on with Sonya and doing her whole thing. They're trying to get her to go help her in Outworld. And then what we didn't talk about too much about is there's a little bit of Raiden involvement. We talked a little bit about it, but everybody knows what they're about to set up. This is about to be Mortal Kombat Fight 1-on-1 top tournament coming up pretty soon, and I'm looking forward to it.
Mortal Kombat. About that Mortal Kombat tournament. It is a good book. It is, like Evan the Great said, it is kind of hard to follow, but if you pay attention, you can follow it, but it's very choppy. You'll get a little bit of this story, a little bit of this story, a little bit of that story. You kind of got to mix it all together, figure out what's going on. But all in all, it's a good book. But to touch on what Justin Von Doom said, the games were extremely violent for their time. This book is extremely violent. Like, they did not step away from that. And that's one of my favorite things about the book. Another nod to the game is a lot of times, like in the games, when you do your special, it does the X-ray version. And it shows you.
Here recently they've done that.
Here recently it'll do the X-ray version and show you like breaking bones or whatever. It does that in this book a little bit. It's not overbearing where it's just constant. But every once in a while they'll do it.
They with that hard hit, you know, ram, they'll show it.
I thought that was such a good touch. I can think of maybe 3 times in the first 4 books that it did this, and I felt like each time it set the mood for that what was going on, that little fight scene, and I really enjoyed that touch. All a callback to some of the games.
So we were talking about beforehand, and which has already been brought, how the book is choppy. It might be a little tough to follow, but what that does is it gives you the background of what's going on before a Mortal Kombat tournament, before the Battle of the Realms. If you ever watched Mortal Kombat Legacy, they really do that really good with the first season. You get a backstory because, okay, we play Mortal Kombat, guys show up and fight. What were these guys doing that led up to this? What were these guys' lives doing before this, you know? And that's why the book is choppy, because it's trying to fit a lot of that in there before we're assuming the tournament starts. Because, you know, Kotal Kahn had showed up, had mentioned everything with Mileena in the army, so there's going to be some type of thing here that leads up into the tournament, and you've got to have character background to why these characters will be going there to face each other in some type of sense. And that's why the book's choppy, but eventually I think it'll smooth itself out, and you'll start getting more longer stories for characters, kind of like with Kenshi, Takeda, Fox, and Scorpion. You know, that was a big chunk of this story. I think you'll start getting a lot of that later on in the later issues.
Another thing I like about the story is that they're putting, actually, like he said, they're putting story behind what the characters are doing when they're not fighting on the front of your video game screen. And I like some of the enemy approaches, like they talk about the red dragons. I would like to learn a whole lot more about them and where they're from and what they're all about. That would be kind of neat to me. And then like the Netherworlds and Chaos, kind of go out and do a little bit.
You're world building.
Yeah. I want to see a little bit about these bad guys and where they're coming from and what different realms and stuff they're on. Because I think it'll be really interesting and add more twist that they can add to this spot that they got going on.
Well, I also like how they're starting to bring the realms together in this book. Like Kotal Kahn, he needs their help, basically to define the Red Dragons or whatever it is, because the Red Dragons have made a pact with Mileena, and so that's why he's here. So they're already starting to do that interdimensional linking. You know what I'm like, pulling the two together. It's already happening, but it's with the bad guys. So they're already starting to do that, so I can really see how you're going to start getting both Outworld and Earthrealm. You're going to start seeing characters from both. So we, like Evan Gray was saying, need to understand and know a background to these characters that they're about to be putting forth, rather than just throwing them out there for a good fight scene. So I also agree. I think they did a good job of trying to touch base, at least on right now, the primary characters that they'll be using. They're not just putting them in the book and for no reason. You don't know why they're there, where they came from. You know their name. They're actually trying to explain some of that, which is why I believe it's kind of choppy at first.
Well, you talk about primary characters. You've got a fighting game with a cast of at least, I'll say, a minimum of 12, 15 characters. So, you say primary, but you have to pick and choose when a character shines. And that can be really bad for a book like this where, your typical comic book, superhero-wise, is based either on a small team, 5 to 6 members, or a solo guy, or this book is completely different from something like that. And it's going to jump around a lot, and, you have to let characters shine in their moments instead of focusing on one guy. Okay, for instance, my favorite character is Scorpion. Always loved Scorpion before he was the big popular guy. So of course the book beginning shines on him. Well, then you've got little small spots with Sub-Zero, Kano, Raiden. Eventually those characters will get a shine. It's just a problem of weaving all that in without losing the overall feel for the story, without stopping during what's going on in the story to tell some back history. And I think this wound up being really good, but I could see where that would lead to problems in the future with this book too. And that's kind of bad. For instance, like I had said, I think this is 25 years later after Mortal Kombat 9, which I talked to you guys, if you haven't played it, you need to, because it almost resets the Mortal Kombat universe. Now, you've got 25 years of history missing there. So for filler in the book, to me, I think that would hurt that, to try to cover a lot of that. Because, you've got Hanzo, who's Scorpion here, there's something there that's happened where he has got rid of the specter of Scorpion. So there's a lot of story there to tell. And Sub-Zero here, he is like Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat 3, if I'm right, even if you reset the timeline. So, I think he's dead at one point. So where did he come back? So there's a lot of history, which we were talking about, that is going to be built, but there's also a lot of missing history that needs to be explained too. So, which actually gives the opportunity for this book to go a very, very long time. And now that DC will do these, because Warner Brothers owns the Mortal Kombat franchise, this book will probably go on for a long time, and I will not be surprised if it's got other books branching off to it in the future.
I agree, but I think, or a little more, I hope that I'm okay with the choppiness, like you were saying, because they have so much to cover. 25 years of emptiness that they kind of pick and pluck.
And plus with a bunch of characters.
Yeah, and with a bunch of characters. But I think and I hope that they get together as a group for the Mortal Kombat tournament. Mm-hmm. I hope that once that happens, it comes more of a team aspect. Like they'll have this team, Earthrealm, that they'll focus on, and then you'll have the Outworld, that they'll focus on, maybe do one book about this or half and half, and then maybe the side characters, like people behind the scenes, have their own little parts of the books. That way it's not so choppy, but you know, you got the choppiness out of the way early, and you did a good enough job at it that you kind of know what's going on. You got some backstory, but it wasn't overwhelming with backstory. And then once it matters, they'll bring it together and actually be able to write a good, almost team book out of it.
Yeah.
You know, with your good guys, bad guys, and the people behind the scenes.
Well, you've got your chance there for team building because you've got your red dragons, your black dragons, Shiria, which is like Scorpion's clan, the Lin Kuei, which is like Sub-Zero's clan. You've got a good chance to team build there if you want to take it to that type of aspect. But like I said, for all that, it's a lot to cram in one series. And if the series doesn't like drop to where like, well, you know, you've got Justice League, and then you know you have like Justice League of America, you know, or Justice League 3000 or whatever. You know, eventually I can see where this book is going to need to do that.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, the choppiness, I could see where it could give, okay, it would give readers a headache that don't read comics but are big fans of the franchise and want to read to what's going on. And I could see where that would push them guys away. But, and you know, in my opinion, that's where this book also needs another title, for instance. Like, if you're going to focus on Earthrealm and we're like, Raiden's gathering like Sub-Zero and Scorpion, all your guys that aren't typically the people that would run around with like Sonya Blade, Jax, Johnny Cage. You know, I could see where you would need to split that off and have the books intertwine with each other.
And to kind of hash on all that, keep going. This is an idea I've thought up, and I waited till now to tell these guys because I think it'd be cool. DC has a big thing that they do with covers. Like they do different covers. With this book, let's do fatality covers because I think that would sell right off the shelf.
Ooh, that would, but you've also got that comes tricky with marketing because a lot of...
You know how they have the holographic covers for DC where you can do this and it does different things? They would be doing the fatality.
Yeah, but the level of violence on a cover is not going to sit well.
Special order it and come in black.
That's what
you'd
have to
pay a little more money for it.
You'd have to special.
I would pay $10 for a cover like that.
Oh, I would too. I think that would
be
great.
so badass to me.
I think that'd be great, but like I said, you know, there's a lot of covering up on that you're going to have to do, which I have seen books like with nudity on the front that just have nudity on the front, but those books don't really sell that well either. They're very underground books like tarot or something like that. But I think actually that is a really great cover, and once this video we put it out, I'm going to tweet some stuff like that, maybe see what I can't do.
Talking about back to what Von Doom was touching on, I think the reason we don't have multiple story arcs is because it was too big a risk at first to do it.
Oh yeah, you've got to see how well the book sells.
But I think it would have been done best if they would have had the main Mortal Kombat book, and then they could have had all these off branch like Marvel and DC.
Like a .1, you know.
Yeah, like they could cover, and Scorpion can have his own little book that directly ties into the Mortal Kombat book. Same with, you know, you could do Sub-Zero, you could do the more popular characters, give them their own book that you think could sell, that you think could do good, and then in them books you could intertwine that to your main story, which is where Raiden's gathering them all. You know, you can fit you'd have to have main characters in that too, but you know, you can fit your lower characters in there too with Raiden gathering them all, and then on the side you got your other books that would hopefully sell well with Sub-Zero, Scorpion, you know, the more popular characters doing their own thing that goes into the main book. I think it would have been a much better book then.
Now, we like to talk about our favorite characters in a book, which obviously, like I said, by Scorpion, and this book was mostly Scorpion,
yeah,
which I loved. But I really like what they have going on. This fight with is Kano and Sub-Zero in this, right? This issue? Yeah, and where that's going to play off at, because there's this thing with these daggers, the Komo Dogu or whatever they're calling them, that are tied to this demon. And I'm really curious to how that's going to play off, because with Mortal Kombat, you don't really get a lot of demon-based things. Like, you got the Netherrealm, where Quan Chi had, you know, done everything with Scorpion and whatnot. And demon-based things are not a lot of things you get inside of Mortal Kombat, and I really want to see how that plays out. It's almost like a different realm that you've not seen before.
And then to keep going with a favorite character theme, in this book, my favorite character is Cassie. I really like, you can see a lot of Johnny in her and some Sonya.
Yeah.
And I really like the character. I don't know why. It felt like that. It almost like whoever, you know, come up with that did a really good job. They did a really good job portraying her story. and she's this young girl getting in over her head, and she steps in a ring with somebody with powers that she's probably heard of but not seen before.
Well, she's like Johnny. She's very arrogant to a degree, you know.
And I like that. But my favorite character in Mortal Kombat is Sub-Zero, and you don't see too much of him in here. He has a little bit of fighting a little bit with Kano. But I really, like he said, like Von Doom said,
it's just enough to drag you
This
in.
one's a lot about Scorpion. I could see one in the future becoming more of Sub-Zero.
I'd have to agree. I believe Cassie was my favorite character in this book, but I can't put it her by herself. Jackie has to be in there with her, because every time you see them, they're together. I really enjoyed how they played off each other in this book, and Johnny was one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character.
I would say so.
From the back. And so I like how she was a lot like him, and she was arrogant and cocky, and she's a lot like her dad. She's, haters gonna hate. Like, he kept his worst, he got a trophy for worst actor.
An award, yeah.
Yeah, or award. And he kept it to remind him that haters are gonna hate. You gotta do what you gotta do, and that's still Johnny. And she's the same way. She tells herself that a couple times. But I also like how, she's not powerless, man. When she's fighting Jackie, she's like, you didn't get your dad's robo arms, but I got my dad's shadow kick.
Yeah.
She's like, boom, and I was like, yes, I really enjoyed that. But
she ain't seen, like, what I'm talking about, like, the magical aspect.
Yeah.
I guess you could
Well,
say.
I'm sure they've heard of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I mean, obviously.
Her mom's Sonya. That's what she directly deals with.
Yeah. Yeah, probably does then.
And her dad's Jax, so, they directly deal with that. So they might not have personally seen it, but they definitely know about it. But if I had to pick a favorite part, it's a short, simple part. It's when Fox first starts training or sparring with Takeda. They're sitting there, and and he's like, because he don't really even know how to fight yet. And
Yeah.
Fox, he's like, and Scorpion's standing there, and it just gave me chills because I'm like, oh, they're gonna fight, and Scorpion's round one.
Yeah, just like
And they start fighting, and Fox beats the crap out of him. And Takeda's laying there, and Fox is like, I'm sorry, blah, blah, I had to. And he's like, it's alright, I can take a butt whooping at least once. And he goes, oh, it's not over. And Scorpion's like, round two, fight. And I'm like, yes, it just gave me chills. Because in my head, I said it like I heard it in the video games. And that's one of the things that just gave me some chills. And that's my favorite actual part of the book.
Well, you're bringing up that, and where Takeda's the son of Kenshi, and we've talked about Cassie and Jackie being the children of Sonya, Johnny, and Jax. Almost this book takes it in a degree what comics want to do, especially with Marvel. With look at all the young Avengers and superheroes having kids, and they do a really good transition with this. I mean, they skip ahead, and you don't have to worry about all this continuity BS that's going on. And like, well, hey, some stuff happened. We haven't told you, but these guys eventually have kids, and we're not going to worry about how all this came to be. It's just that they're here. It's a progression of the game, and they work it really well into the books. And I like how some of the kids even get the spotlight in this book to a degree. And it's really nice because most of the time when you do that in comic books, those kids eventually take a back seat, and they really put them in the forefront of the book.
Well, I mean, we got Cassie, Jackie, Frost, and Takeda.
Yeah.
Is there any more?
Not to my knowledge, no. I mean, like I said, I've never played the game, so I don't know who's going to show up in the book. But I don't see why there wouldn't be. Well, I mean, most of those guys are Earthbound.
Yeah.
So that's their children. I mean, I don't know if I want to see what Baraka and Mileena's child turned out to look like. I mean, with those teeth, God, I can only imagine. But I mean, I could see where an Outworld and any like the other realms where that wouldn't be such a big factor. Where we're being in Earth, having kids is a constant thing. So I mean, I could care less what the children of Outworld or what would come from that. But it just makes sense that it just sticks with the people from Earth.
Yep. You guys like our Mortal Kombat segment here? Just get over here, and we'll show you some more.
I want to touch on one more thing. I don't know who he is, but I just want to touch on it because I hope he has a big part. Is when Kotal Kahn shows up, not the chick that got her butt whooped by Sonya, the cowboy-looking dude.
Aaron Black is who that is.
Yeah, I remember
the guy
they
with the
said
mask
his
and
name.
the hat. Yeah, that is Aaron Black.
They said his name, but I was like, I hope he has something big because I thought he looked awesome, and he just his character, and he didn't really do much. But I'm like, he looks awesome.
Well, the chick where you said the tentacles, there's not tentacles, it's an insect leg.
Yeah.
And I forget her name off for the bat. But I think that's what's cool about reading this book is we don't play a lot of video games anymore. None of us do. And, you know, those games, when they come out, is something we constantly played. You know, we had them as soon as they come out. And now that we're reading this book, it's almost a different aspect where we're not in such a rush to try out these new characters. We're in a rush to learn about new character stories. We don't want to fight with them. We want to learn about them in a comic book perspective. And it's a nice little neat thing to see as we've grown up from this age of like 8, 9 when the game come out. Well, for me, I'm a little older than you guys. To where we're at now to take the story and want to learn about it in a different way. It's really nice. But that's about it for our review of Mortal Kombat Blood Ties. We're the Villains of Man. I'm Justin Von Doom. Zero Man. It's been great. Watch us on YouTube. Like us on Facebook. Send us out some tweets. I'm going to get right on Evan the Great's idea for them covers. And that's really awesome. Retweet that stuff. Keep reading, guys. Finish him!